Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello. And once more, let us go into the breach. Now, let's be clear, okay? Joe and I like Jordan Peterson. He's got a lot of good things to say, many good things to say, okay? We pray for him because it seems like he's moving closer and closer to Christ. So we love that. Oh, of course, we're going to love that. But we're not Jordan Peterson worshipers. It's like you get the feeling like there's Jordan Peterson worshipers out there. What I mean by that is he could say nothing wrong. Like nothing he says is wrong. And we're not in that camp. But once in a while, many times, he says a lot of the right things. Now, Joe Rossinello has been following a lot of what's going on in Canada. So one of the things that's happening is the carbon tax, okay, has started, okay? And, well, let's play the clip and then we'll come back.
Net zero means zero for you. That's what it means. And by plan, you little people, you don't need cars. God, who needs a private automobile? I knew 15 years ago that the bloody totalitarians would go after the cars.
Sure.
Because nothing screams freedom like a 350 horsepower Mustang in the hands of a 16-year-old boy. Ownership, you think, well, you get to have an electric car. It's like, no, the grid can't sustain electric charging. Well, how will we deal with that? How about you peasants don't get to have cars?
That's right.
Right. No cars, no flights, no meat, no heat, no air conditioning.
No container shipping.
Oh yeah, well, who needs good?
So I think everything he said there, Joe, just it lays out their plan for the middle class, which won't be a middle class anymore if the Klaus Schwab, Yuval Harari, WEF World Bank types have their way. He's exactly right. Cars do represent freedom, by the way. The mobility that came about and the freedom that came about in this country because of the invention of the automobile. And I mean, look, we know that they're looking to destroy all this, but ultimately it's like he said, they mean net zero for you. Justin Trudeau is going to continue to fly on private jets. So will John Kerry. Go, Joe, go.
Yeah, but that goes along with what I've been always saying. Unless you're in the income bracket of Jordan Peterson or Justin Trudeau, they will be able to do all of those things. You won't. People have to get this through your head. Even if you consider yourself liberal or progressive, they don't represent you. You can't afford to support them because ultimately poor people are easily controlled and they're making you poorer and poorer.
Joe, quick question. You think any of those working class or middle class women out there who are pro-abortion and blah, 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 do you think they're going to feel so progressive when those same progressives tell them you can't have meat anymore? Bill Gates says we're going to make bug products because it's got a lot of protein and you're going to eat bugs. What do you think of that, Joe?
It's crazy. Sadly, a lot of times people rationalize things because they don't want to change behaviors. That's a conversation for another day, and we can talk all day about it. But I'm talking purely dollars and cents, and that's what Jordan Peterson's talking about. He's basically echoing what I have said. You are a peasant in their eyes. And notice he doesn't say me, because Jordan Peterson's wealthy. And he's not, but this is a reality. He can afford steak. He can afford to fly. He can afford a car. He can afford air conditioning. He can heat his very large home and have no problem. So can Justin Trudeau, two people who are very diametrically opposed to each other, ideologically speaking. But if you are a progressive school teacher, you can't. If you are a conservative school teacher, makes a modest salary, you can't.
Right.
So therefore, you have to rethink your alliance. You see, that's what people aren't seeing, Joe. You can't afford to support these ideas. People delude themselves,
Right.
and you're being played. And that's the sickening part that I just say, I can't even believe this.
Right.
I can't even believe this. Again, if you make $800,000 a year, you have $20 million of a net worth, you live in a $4 million house, you have $200,000 cars, and you want to vote for a globalist position, we could agree to disagree. But if you make 60,000 US or 60,000 Canadian a year, you rent, you simply can't afford to support these people.
Right.
And too many people refuse to look at that reality because it's reality.
Well,
Joe.
listen, we could get into the reasons why the oligarchs get away with what they want. We know E. Michael Jones says is because, Wilson, when you've been sold sexual liberation as a way of life, and you're unwilling to put that down, you're a slave. And Joe, that liberal school teacher, that progressive school teacher, you said she'll justify eating bugs, while the people that make her eat bugs are eating foie gras and sipping on Grey Goose. Trust me. No, and she'll have to live with. The problem is, if she's willing to suffer, and people like her, well, I'm not willing to suffer. And I will dare say a lot of people in Canada and a lot of people in America, we're not willing to suffer either. Here's our message from Frontline with Joe and Joe to Bill Gates. We ain't eating bugs. We ain't eating bugs. Okay? Our kids are not eating bugs. So if you want to fight, we're going to fight. Okay? But we ain't doing it. And Joe, that's exactly what they want. All of this, like you said, and this is the net result, the ultimate goal is to erase the middle class.
Well, it ultimately points to this universal income, Joe. That's actually been talked about.
Right.
What was his name? He ran for president the last.
Yang.
That was one of his positions. He ran for United States president. This has been talked about on the global stage. This isn't conspiracy. It's been coming out of people's mouths.
Right.
They are going to put you on a plantation, give you a crumb to eat, in saying, oh, we're going to help you. Meanwhile, their lives go on. You are a slave. Whether you consider yourself conservative or liberal.
Do you know, under the Soviet Union, you know what the one thing that the Russian people were not lacking, that was abundantly provided them by the government? You know what the one thing was?
Vodka.
Exactly. I'm going to cause you pain, but I'll give you something that help you to numb the pain. But the pain's coming nonetheless. You won't be able to do anything about it. Here's a bottle of good Russian vodka. Take that down, go to sleep, and don't worry about it, which is exactly what the oligarchs are trying to tell us. But we're not having it. Not at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Share this video, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and stick around for more great content.